In the world of espionage, where secrets and lies are the currency of the trade, one man stood out for his exceptional detective skills. A Belgian detective, known for his remarkable ability to solve complex cases, was often called upon to crack the toughest espionage cases. With his keen mind and sharp instincts, he was able to outsmart even the most cunning spies. His story is one of fascination and intrigue, a real-life tale of a Sherlock Holmes who used his intelligence and expertise to bring spies to justice. Born in the late 19th century, the Belgian detective grew up in a world where crime and espionage were becoming increasingly sophisticated. From a young age, he was fascinated by the art of detection and spent countless hours reading about famous detectives and their cases. He was particularly drawn to the stories of Sherlock Holmes, whose exceptional skills and powers of observation inspired him to become a detective himself. As he grew older, his interest in detection only deepened, and he began to develop his own skills and techniques for solving complex cases. The detective's first big case was a complex espionage affair that had all the hallmarks of a classic spy thriller. A foreign agent had been caught stealing sensitive information from a government office, but the detective was tasked with uncovering the identity of the agent's handler. Using his exceptional powers of observation and deduction, the detective was able to follow a trail of clues that led him from the streets of Brussels to the corridors of power in the capital. It was a case that would test his skills to the limit and prove his worth as a detective. So, how did the Belgian detective manage to solve such complex cases? The answer lies in his exceptional powers of observation and deduction. He was a master of detail, able to notice tiny clues that others might miss. He was also an expert in the art of disguise, able to blend in seamlessly with his surroundings and gather information without being detected. But perhaps his most significant skill was his ability to think like a spy, to understand the motivations and tactics of his adversaries and stay one step ahead of them. The world of espionage is a complex and shadowy one, where secrets and lies are the currency of the trade. Spies and agents operate in the shadows, using their skills and cunning to gather information and influence events. It is a world of deception and betrayal, where loyalty is a luxury that few can afford. The Belgian detective had to navigate this treacherous landscape, using his skills and expertise to stay one step ahead of his adversaries and bring them to justice. The detective's greatest challenge came in the form of a particularly cunning spy, who had managed to evade capture for years. The spy, known only by his codename, had been responsible for some of the most significant breaches of security in the country's history. The detective was tasked with tracking him down and bringing him to justice, but it would prove to be a difficult and dangerous task. The spy was a master of deception, able to change his identity and appearance at will, and the detective would have to use all his skills and expertise to stay one step ahead of him. The detective and the spy engaged in a cat-and-mouse game, each trying to outsmart the other. The detective would follow a trail of clues, only to find that the spy had left a false trail to throw him off the scent. The spy would use his skills and cunning to evade capture, but the detective would always be one step behind, waiting for him to make a mistake. It was a game of wits, with the highest stakes imaginable, and only one man could emerge victorious. The detective had a network of informants and contacts that he used to gather information and stay one step ahead of his adversaries. From street vendors to high-ranking officials, the detective had a web of connections that provided him with valuable insights and intelligence. He was able to use this information to anticipate the spy's next move and prepare a trap for him. It was a delicate balancing act, as the detective had to be careful not to reveal his sources or compromise his informants. The spy had a web of deception that was complex and sophisticated. He had created multiple identities and cover stories, each one designed to throw the detective off the scent. He had also created a network of loyal operatives, who were willing to do his bidding and carry out his instructions. The spy was a master of manipulation, able to use his charm and charisma to get what he wanted. But the detective was not fooled, and he was determined to expose the spy's web of deception and bring him to justice. The final confrontation between the detective and the spy was a tense and dramatic affair. The detective had finally uncovered the spy's true identity and had tracked him down to a secret hideout. The spy was desperate and cornered, and he knew that he had to use all his skills and cunning to escape. But the detective was ready for him, and he had a plan to catch the spy and bring him to justice. It was a moment of truth, with the highest stakes imaginable, and only one man could emerge victorious. The aftermath of the case was a time of reflection and analysis. The detective had solved the case, but he knew that there were still many unanswered questions. He had uncovered a web of deception and corruption that went all the way to the top, and he knew that he had to be careful not to reveal too much. The spy had been brought to justice, but the detective knew that there were still many other spies and operatives out there, waiting to strike. He had to remain vigilant and continue to use his skills and expertise to stay one step ahead of him. The legacy of the Belgian detective is one of inspiration and admiration. He was a true pioneer in the field of detection, and his skills and expertise have been studied and emulated by detectives all over the world. He was a master of his craft, and his work continues to influence and inspire new generations of detectives. His story is a testament to the power of intelligence, expertise, and determination, and it serves as a reminder that even in the most complex and challenging cases, justice can be served with courage, perseverance, and a keen mind. Joseph Sambursky emerged from modest beginnings in Brussels at a time when European policing was transforming from traditional methods to scientific investigation. Born into a middle-class Jewish family, he witnessed firsthand the social tensions that would later fuel much of the espionage he would investigate. His career began in the late 19th century, a period when the Belgian police force was still developing its forensic capabilities. Sambursky's unique background, fluent in multiple languages, familiar with diverse communities, and possessing an analytical mind, would prove invaluable in his later work uncovering international conspiracies. Before becoming Belgium's premier spy hunter, Sambursky built his reputation through meticulous attention to detail and unconventional investigative techniques. He studied crime scenes with the precision of a scientist, cataloging evidence others overlooked. His methods included extensive surveillance operations, careful analysis of communication patterns, and building networks of informants across European cities. These early cases taught him to look beyond obvious clues, developing what colleagues would later describe as an almost supernatural ability to connect seemingly unrelated pieces of information into coherent narratives of deception. Sambursky's breakthrough came in 1914 when he uncovered a German spy ring operating in Antwerp during the early days of World War I. The case involved multiple agents using diplomatic pouches and coded messages hidden in everyday objects. Working with limited resources and under intense pressure, Sambursky employed his signature technique of following financial trails and tracking movement patterns. He discovered that the spies used legitimate business activities as cover, making his task exponentially more difficult. The operation ultimately led to the arrest of 5 agents and provided crucial intelligence about German plans for the siege of Antwerp. One of Sambursky's greatest challenges involved going undercover himself to dismantle espionage networks. He mastered the art of adopting new identities, changing his appearance, and speaking with appropriate accents to blend into different social circles. His disguises were so convincing that even seasoned intelligence officers were fooled. This technique allowed him to infiltrate criminal organizations from within, gathering evidence without raising suspicion. His work in this area demonstrated that the line between investigator and spy was sometimes a matter of tactical necessity rather than moral choice. The chaos of the Russian Revolution created new opportunities for intelligence operations, and Sambursky found himself at the center of a complex web involving multiple nations. In 1917, he tracked a network of agents attempting to smuggle revolutionary documents and weapons across Eastern Europe. These operatives used trains, boats, and diplomatic channels to move their cargo while avoiding detection. Sambursky's team monitored railway schedules, intercepted communications, and identified safe houses used by the conspirators. Their work prevented several major shipments from reaching revolutionary leaders, though it also made Sambursky a target for assassination attempts. Perhaps Sambursky's most sophisticated investigation involved tracing money trails through Belgium's financial institutions. He discovered that foreign intelligence services were using legitimate banking transactions to fund their agents and operations. By working closely with financial investigators, he mapped networks of shell companies and false accounts that served as conduits for espionage funding. This required understanding complex financial instruments, international banking regulations, and the behavior of money launderers. The case revealed how economic systems could be weaponized for intelligence purposes, a concept that would become increasingly relevant in later decades. Sambursky's team encountered increasingly sophisticated encryption methods as their investigations progressed. They worked with mathematicians and linguists to decode messages written in multiple languages using complex cipher systems. Some codes required months of analysis, involving pattern recognition, linguistic expertise, and mathematical calculations. The breakthrough came when they identified a pattern in how certain words were consistently abbreviated, revealing a system that had fooled intelligence services for years. This success demonstrated that human ingenuity in deception could be matched by equally determined analytical effort. In 1923, Sambursky's capture of a high-level spy network led to an extraordinary attempt on his life. Multiple assassination plots were uncovered, including one involving a bomb hidden in a diplomatic pouch delivered to his office. The foiling of these attempts required quick thinking and the assistance of loyal colleagues who recognized the danger. This incident highlighted the personal risks that came with investigating powerful intelligence organizations. Sambursky's survival was due in part to his own security protocols, which included regular changes to his routine and careful screening of all visitors to his office. As Sambursky's reputation grew, so did his network of international contacts. He developed working relationships with police forces across Europe, sharing intelligence and coordinating operations against transnational espionage rings. This cooperation required navigating complex diplomatic relationships and overcoming national rivalries that could compromise ongoing investigations. The joint operation against a German spy network in 1925 demonstrated how international collaboration could be more effective than isolated national efforts. Sambursky's role as a liaison helped establish protocols for information sharing that would influence intelligence work for decades. By the 1930s, Sambursky had become a legend within Belgian law enforcement. His methods were studied and taught to new generations of investigators. He received numerous commendations from government officials and was invited to consult on cases across Europe. Even as political tensions rose leading to World War II, his expertise remained in demand. Sambursky's approach to investigation, combining scientific rigor with creative deduction, anticipated many developments in modern forensic science. Colleagues noted that he could often solve cases simply by asking the right questions and noticing what others missed. Sambursky's last great investigation began in 1938 when he detected unusual activity surrounding a group of foreign diplomats in Brussels. What appeared to be routine diplomatic visits revealed themselves to be cover for an extensive espionage operation. Working under extreme time pressure as war approached, Sambursky coordinated with Allied intelligence services to prevent the spies from obtaining critical military information. The operation required patience, as the agents moved slowly to avoid detection. The successful conclusion of this case prevented what historians believe could have been a significant intelligence coup for the opposing side. Joseph Sambursky's retirement in 1940 marked the end of an era, but his influence continued to shape investigative practices worldwide. His emphasis on methodical evidence collection, international cooperation, and psychological insight became standard approaches in modern policing. Former colleagues went on to establish training programs that incorporated his techniques into police academies across Europe. The story of his career, filled with daring investigations, clever disguises, and brilliant deductions, captured the imagination of writers and filmmakers. While fictional detectives like Sherlock Holmes captured popular imagination, Sambursky proved that real-life investigators could match any literary creation in their ability to solve the most baffling mysteries.